So this is going to be the process for making a self-wicking bucket out of a 5-gallon pail. For my reservoir, I'm just using this cheap 1-gallon pot I got from Home Depot for $1 each. And the first thing I'm going to do in this system is I'm going to drill the weep hole that this needs for drainage, and I'm going to put it right at this junction here. I think I'll put another one on the other side just in case of... So these weep holes were positioned to be somewhat below the level of the holes in the pot. I'm thinking that it needs to be that way for the correct amount of drainage. You want to have the drainage from the main container below the level of the holes in the reservoir. Now one thing we can see is that the holes in this reservoir pot are quite large, so I'm going to take a piece of the 30% sunshade screen that I have laying around and just tape it to the sides temporarily, and once I start to put in the medium, then this will be held down permanently or until I decide to change it. Nothing fancy going on here, just a piece of masking tape to hold it in place. Might want to comment that it seems to me that a 1-gallon reservoir in a 5-gallon pot might represent a pretty good ratio, let's say 20 or 25% of the volume. Now in the past I've done some work with Kratky and I found it just a little bit temperamental, and I'm hoping that this will be simpler. And one of the things I think may go on here is that a problem you can have with Kratky is root rot, and because there's no circulation. And I think one of the things that may go on with this type of system is that as the water and nutrient solution is drained out of the reservoir, it will pull air down into the system and generally aerate all the roots, and that will be good for the plants. So I'm now filling this with a medium, which is basically a mixture of coconut coir and potting soil, in this case Miracle Grow. I am not a purist about some of this stuff anymore, although when this thing goes into operation, it is going to be fed with a weak mixture of my full spectrum hydroponic solution, which includes macronutrients, micronutrients, trace minerals, amino acids, mycorrhiza, and a few other things thrown in for good luck, like sea salt. So that's all there is to it. What I will say is that this is one of the simplest things I have ever built. Now it's taken maybe 15 minutes or a half hour at the most, plus the time I spent running back and forth to Lowe's and Home Depot to get all this stuff. But once you have it in stock, you can put these together real fast. And I'll put a link to a site called Gardening with Leon, which is really what inspired me to look into this. And the thing about his site is that he is using dozens or hundreds of pots somewhat like this to run a commercial operation. So I think that is one of the nice things about this. You know, in technology I'm looking for simple, cheap, easy to build, easy to maintain, and productive, and I think this will be all of those things. A competition to this is something called the Dutch bucket, and if you look at some videos about those, what you see is a lot of plumbing. Plumbing to get solution into the Dutch bucket and plumbing to get it out. And this will be much simpler in operation. Yeah, it's kind of a hand operation, but you know, if you came around every other day and topped this thing up, you'd be in pretty good shape.